Hello and welcome. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on a brand new edition of NewsX India A-List. In our endeavour to bring forth the stories of some of India's finest and brightest, today we've put together yet another unmissable lineup of India's who's who. Our first guests for the day are actor Shruti Hassan and WWF India's Program Director Dr. Sejal Vora. While Dr. Sejal has been working in the field of natural resource management and sustainable development for over 30 years, Shruti Hassan has been appointed as WWF Brand Ambassador and is contributing by raising awareness to stop degradation of the planet's natural environment. Take a look.
Contributing to sustainable development.
It's just amazing. It's a no-brainer.
They are raising awareness to stop our planet's degradation.
Passion, commitment, smartness, intelligence. I mean, it's all of that that's into the package. And that's what's exciting for us.
NewsX India A-List proudly recognizes Shruti Hassan and Dr. Sejal Vora for excellence in natural conservation.
Hello and welcome. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on this special interview as part of our NewsX A-List series. We're in conversation today with well-known actor and brand ambassador for WWF India, Shruti Hassan. And we also have with us live Dr. Sejal Vora. She's Program Director for WWF India. Welcome both of you to NewsX. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shruti, let me begin with you first. What actually drew you to come on board to become the brand ambassador for WWF India?
Well, ever since I've been a child, they've been synonymous with bringing about change and conservation. And so when I was approached by them, it was really a huge honor. And I love the work they have done and what they've done in the field of conservation, especially. I think a lot of people, when we're growing up, we're kind of like WWF, tigers and pandas, and we kind of just like leave it as that. There's so much more that goes into the concept of conservation and understanding, the impact man has with, climate change or encroachment and so many of these things. And to be a part of, it in any way to spread knowledge and compassion for the world around us, it's just amazing. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. How do brand ambassadors, Dr. Sejal, help the work that you do and bring about more awareness for the cause?
So thanks, Shruti. It's great to know that WWF was there from your childhood, because it was there from my childhood too.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, the difference is that I spent almost my entire working life with WWF, so I'm lucky in a way. I think sort of brand ambassadors, somehow I'm not so comfortable with it, because it almost sounds like you're marketing something. And in a way we are, in a way we are marketing the environment, but it's more than marketing. It's about behavioral change. I, as an individual, spend almost, half my time, giving lectures, seminars, webinars, I mean, you name it. But in a way, I'm talking to the converted. And what people like Shruti bring, as ambassadors of WWF, they help us to reach out to a completely different audience. It's an audience that otherwise I would not know how to reach at all. So what she's doing is she's sort of expanding the reach of the organization and bringing the message to a lot more people than we would be able to do otherwise. But I should also say that for brand ambassadors, it has to be a perfect match. Because it's not just that you pick up somebody who's popular and say, okay, become a brand ambassador. There has to be a values and a cultural match between the person and the organization. And so we're really lucky to have people like Shruti, who embody for the younger generation this whole combination of, passion, commitment, smartness, intelligence. I mean, it's all of that that's into the package. And that's what's exciting for us.
Yes. Shruti, just coming now to the issue of the environment and, of course, conservation. What do you believe is the biggest challenge today facing the environment? And have you also been, personally affected by this challenge and the crisis?
I think the biggest thing is a lack of understanding of how dire the problem is, number one, because of a lack of knowledge. And like Sejal ma'am said, it's like in pockets, when she said she's preaching to the converted, it's people who have already understood this, and it's like they're all going to mass together. They understand why they're there. But the important people that I think need to be spoken with or let's have dialogue with is people who don't understand that, we're leaving behind this environment for a future generation. Not only that, in our current lifetime, there are, gaping holes and threats staring us in the face. And we act like it's very far away, just like we acted about the tigers and the elephants. I live in a city, they're in a forest somewhere, they're far away. That's not my life. But everything in nature is so beautifully interlinked. That, in fact, is the beauty of nature. And we have to have humility and understanding that we belong in that ecosystem, but we need to value the space given to us. And I think that, understanding that and understanding how small things every day can help contribute to this growth is the biggest challenge we're facing, that people aren't listening and understanding enough. And I think that should change with dialogue and people wanting to understand the world around them.
Okay. Dr. Sejal, if we speak about your own assessment, do you also believe that perhaps is one of the biggest challenges we're facing? And what have been some of your personal experiences which shaped your journey of conservation and your passion for it as well?
So I'll say it in very short. So, growing up, it all depends on what happens to you as a child. And growing up in Mumbai, my father was passionate about the outdoors and he would take us out as children all the time. So it kind of inculcated in us a love for nature, but that was just one part of it. For me, I think apart from just, enjoying nature, what changed me was when I was doing my PhD, and I lived for 3 years in a very remote tribal district in South Gujarat. And it was interacting with these communities who live in the forest that absolutely changed my outlook on conservation, because I realized that, while I'm enjoying nature, they're living it. It's their everyday life, and they're the ones who are really paying the price of living in nature. Whereas we, lots of us city dwellers, we are enjoying the benefits of it. So that completely changed my outlook in terms of, bringing in issues of equity and justice in conservation. So it kind of changed the way I looked at conservation. It also is the way WWF looks at conservation. So when we talk about conservation, we talk about conservation and people. It's all about people at the end of the day. It's not just about nature for the sake of it. It's how nature and people interact with each other. And that's my philosophy in life, and also my organization's philosophy in life.
Okay. Well, let's end now by just sending out a message to our viewers of what they should do, how they will play the part. How are you playing the part, Shruti? And how should our viewers play their part as well?
I think I would speak from a very basic, non-technical way, unlike Sejal, who can give us very tactical, technical ways to start. I think the first thing is dialogue, discussion, and wanting to seek knowledge and understand, and also to be humble in the face of this world, and realize we are not the only species, we are not the only important species, I think, and to value nature. And as Sejal said, is the most beautiful examples when I started associating with WWF is how they're helping man and nature coexist, and that is the ultimate place that we want to go to, and to, I think, seek that knowledge, find that balance, and have as many discussions as we can, and not make it a nature discussion. This is a discussion about our life, all of us.
Dr. Sejal, last word to you.
Okay, thank you. I think what excites me about the times today is that there's a lot more discourse and a lot more discussion about conservation. It's not just something that is an elite or something out there. So it's everybody from world leaders to national leaders, to people like Shruti, everyone is talking about this issue. And that is, to me, something hugely heartening. It's a big change from when I was struggling and we were struggling to get our voices heard. So I think those voices are being heard. I just hope that it's not too late. I hope that we can act before it's too late as a globe and as a country. And I think the one thing that I would tell people, and this is echoing what Shruti said, is just be aware and conscious. If you're aware and conscious about your act and behavior, you will change it automatically. So that's self-awareness, I think, is the most important thing.
True. Well, thank you both so much for joining us today for this very refreshing conversation at a very topical time as well. And let's hope that we do, spread the message through this program, and of course also through the work you're doing. And Shruti, now with you on board, I'm sure the reach will be far wider and greater. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Our next guest for the day is entrepreneur, digital marketer and a mentor, Virender Chaudhary. As part of Striving Entrepreneurs in recent times, he has his own platform called Hello Viru. Take a look at this conversation.
With immense experience in digital marketing,
I can't train people on how to become self-employed. So that is where I started a course called DBA Mastery, where I train as of now 5,500 people.
he aims to help people in their careers and fulfill their dreams.
I gave them a live classes on every Saturday. From last 1 year, I'm going live on every Saturday without fail. Till now, I took 68 live classes to them.
NewsX India A-List proudly recognizes Virender Chaudhary for excellence in startup and digital marketing.
Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX A-List. With me is Virender Chaudhary. He is an entrepreneur, a digital marketer, and ads expert. He's now going to talk to us about his journey and, of course, some message for the youngsters who are today watching this show. So my very first question to you, tell us about your journey. What really inspired you to build this organization? Tell us a little bit about yourself, your organization, and the journey which you have taken, sir, in the past few years.
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. And when we come to our journey, it's quite really interesting. So the first thing I'll tell you why I started this. So before lockdown, first lockdown, there are so many people who are working, but after lockdown, 7.3 million jobs lost. And everybody is in a situation where they cannot even live for a basic things. So that's where I recognized why I can't train people on how to become self-employed. So that is where I started a course called DBA Mastery, where I trained as of now 5,500 people, out of which 40% of them are now successful self-employed people. So then there is no need of doing a job, and then there is no need of going any interviews, etc., etc. Now they can stand on their own legs. So the journey is quite interesting because I've seen many digital marketing institutes across the India where they are charging almost 75,000 to 1,50,000, depends on their institute, and where their people are spending 75 to 1,50,000, no matter what situation they are in, but still they are investing and they are coming out of no knowledge, because you already know it. Institutes are not up to the mark in the India. I'm not talking about all the institutes, but there are few institutes which I don't want to name them, and people are spending a huge amount on them and they are coming out of no knowledge. So that's where I recognized why there is a need of spending so much amount, like 75,000 to 1,50,000 on digital marketing courses, when they actually, because they actually get it for free on YouTube. There is no need of spending so much of money. So that's where I recognized, and that's where I started training people online on digital marketing, especially to not get job, especially on how you can become a self-employed.
Right. So what differentiates you, sir, from the others in the industry? One, you spoke about, of course, the price point. You rightly mentioned, of course, how many institutes even fleece students. So other than this, what are the factors, key factors which differentiate you from your competitors?
See, I'll tell you very interesting thing here. As I said in the many interviews, online course completion percentage is very, very, very less, as you know, because it is online. People will not show much interest on completing the course. So that's where people fail in. So that is the reason my competitors and other people are training them via recorded classes, that they record some classes on digital marketing and they'll give you the pre-recording things. But what I did is I gave them a live classes on every Saturday. From last 1 year, I'm going live on every Saturday without fail. Till now, I took 68 live classes to them at the course price of only 5,000 rupees, and they too get lifetime access for this course. This is the main point which I stand out from my competition.
Right. And so what were the challenges which you faced in your journey? Take us through the challenges, the risk factors.
The biggest challenge even till today I'm facing is like a course completion percentage. So the average people you see out of 100 people registered my course, only 20 to 25 people will complete it. So we are focusing on it. We are trying it. We are trying to improving it, like how they can complete the course, how we can give good value to them, how we can improve our course content. This is the biggest challenge for any online industry, any online training industry. The course completion percentage is very, very less. This is the biggest thing, biggest challenge what we are facing right now. And coming to the risk, see, every business has a risk. It's all about like how you tackle it. That's it.
Right. You spoke about challenges. Now let's speak about your achievements. Take us through what you think you've achieved in this journey. Of course, it's been a rather noble journey. If you could take us through some numbers, perhaps number of students who enrolled with you, even the course completion is less. How many really were able to become successful entrepreneurs, as you claim?
Done. So I'll tell you, till now, I have a community of 276,000 students who are currently learning my individual courses, out of which 5,500 plus students are the paid students from the last 1 year. Within span of 12 months, I acquired 5,500 paid students, and as well as 275,000 people are currently learning my courses. When it comes to how many people become a self-employed, as I said, 5,500 out of 20% people are learning the courses, and out of 20%, 40% them are successful entrepreneurs right now, where they are earning minimum 1 lakh rupees per month.
Right. And since we're speaking of a digital age, this is a time, of course, COVID, as you rightly said, has changed really the entire phenomena, the way the industry functions. What are your future plans in this digital age?
I'll tell you the future plan. I want to see as many as Indians self-employed, because we are working on that mission. And recently we started our own EdTech startup, which is India's first EdTech company for self-employment, which is Workas. We recently started it, and we have launched the Android and iOS app for them as well, to give more learning experience to them, because whether they are in traveling, whether they are in anywhere, they can access the course right away, and they can attend the live classes of mine. So we have launched the app. And so when it comes to a strong mission, as I said, we want to see India self-employed, but my mission is to train at least 1 lakh people, and I want to see 1 lakh people self-employed on India. This is what we are working on as of now.
Well, absolutely. That's, of course, as I said many times, I'd reiterate, a very noble vision. Finally, as we sign off, what is your message to the youngsters, perhaps some of them who could have been enrolled with you, and some of them who are watching you live on TV, sir?
Done. So I'll tell you one thing before I close this. So to all the youngsters in India, think creatively. Okay, whether in, I don't know what field you are in right now, but you need to stand out and you need to be creative to win in your particular field. If you're same as like everyone, you will not get recognition. Please try to be unique and try to provide some value to others.
All right. I hope really this message has been valuable to the youngsters who are watching this show. Good luck for your journey in the future. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on
Thank
NewsX.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Our next guest for the day is academic, mentor, author and edutech professional Ashish Arora. With an experience of over 28 years, his students have stood amongst top 100 All India ranks in JEE and NEET, including All India rank 1 as well. Yes, take a look at this conversation.
Having mentored over 1 lakh students,
online education is picking up such a pace, and it is a boon for good learners.
he has authored some bestseller books on physics.
Physical connect is needed to enhance the basic habits and the co-curricular activities in a school.
NewsX India A-List proudly recognizes Ashish Arora for excellence in academia.
Hello, welcome. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on this brand new interview as part of our NewsX A-List series. We're in conversation today with Ashish Arora. Ashish is academic mentor and guide at physicsgalaxy.com. He has a teaching experience of over 28 years. Yes, Ashish, welcome to NewsX firstly. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, we're of course going to be concentrating today on, fast adaptation of online learning and also what the future is of classroom learning, of offline learning. But I want to start out by just talking to you a bit about your experience, because, you have, as I said, about 3 decades of teaching experience. mostly, of course, in offline learning, but now, you've adapted very fast to the whole, new sort of new normal of online learning. How do you believe this fast transition is happening in learning? And tell us a bit about it.
Thanks, Uday, for the warm introduction. If I talk about my teaching experience, I started teaching in 1992 when only the classroom model were the only traditional way of communicating in education. And that was the time when in schools, mostly the target of teachers were to complete the syllabus. If we talk about today's scenario, then also in a school authorities and teachers, they focus mainly on completion of a syllabus before time. And particularly for examinations like IIT, JEE, AIIMS, students used to come to us, teachers like me, for deeper understanding of concept and applications, whereas in board exams or school exams, directly questions are asked from books, whereas in competitive exams, questions are totally based on applications and deep thinking of concepts. And we used to devote a lot of time on a student for their understanding. Like if I just take an example, there is a topic in physics, current electricity, a very common physics topic, which is taught in a school for you can say about 4 to 5 hours within 6 to 8 classes. And for deep level of understanding, the questions which are asked in competitive exam, we used to take 16 to 18 hours in teaching of that particular topic. So that is actually required for deeper understanding. This is actually a gap in our overall education system, which is gradually coping up, and new education policy and a lot of things are coming up, and things are also getting evolved. And that was a time when after devoting a lot of hours, the main thing, the results were produced by students when students themselves devote time on their self-paced learning. After learning from class by us or any teacher, students have to devote a lot of time in referring to multiple resources, academic content, practicing question. And if they honestly do a lot of practice, finally the results used to come up that time. But when we talk about today's scenario, in past about 18-20 months, so when online learning has become a necessity, we realize the students are able to spare a lot of time for them. Earlier, before pandemic time, when students were devoting time in a school and devoting time in coaching, they hardly left with the limited time for their self-paced working. But in this scenario, after completely online guidance and set instruction, students are able to spare a lot of time. And the difference practically we can see this year in JEE Main 2021 actual result, which was declared last month. This has happened first time in history of Indian education system that 18 students across country got All India Rank 1. First time 18 simultaneous national toppers were there in this JEE examination. And this clearly indicates all those students who were good learners and hard workers, they devoted a lot of time and finally achieved 100% marks in this examination, because of which were hardly 1 or maximum 2 students tied at All India Rank 1. This time 18 students achieved the level. So this just because of online education is picking up such a pace, and it is a boon for good learners.
Let's talk a bit about it then. Why do you believe that online learning has an edge over offline learning?
So, Uday, just what I have spoken about when we talk about school education or competitive education, or even if we talk about professional training, any particular purpose, when we talk about classroom or offline learning, this is a mode in which a student or a learner has to commute from his home to a physical place, and then they have been guided by educators, instructors, and then finally they come back to home. And in the whole process, what happens? Tiring due to commuting, distractions and offline, and lot other things is killing time also, as I've just now spoken. So one thing is students are certainly getting a lot of extra time for their self-paced learning. Another important thing, if we talk about the beauty of this online education system, good instructors, good educators across country or anywhere across the globe are now in reach of learners. If I want to learn from a good educators who is sitting in a specific country, in a specific city, now he or she is in my reach. So this geographical boundaries have been set aside by this online education system. There's one advantage, there's an extra edge. Another thing is when we talk about the flipped classroom learning, which is a major advantage of online education, whereas the students were totally messing up their studies between their school and then for career, they used to go to coaching institutes and they were not able to balance the two things. But now due to online education system, there are a lot of things coming up. Whatever is going on in a school, they are able to study the same topic at a deeper level in online system, as well as right after class, they are getting extra time for referring multiple resources over internet. This is the main edge, but there is one important problem also coming up. Many parents and students have also started feeling their child was not able to focus properly in online systems because students were getting distracted by other activities on internet and there was a problem of focus. I do agree that there is a problem of focus in online learning, but the problem of focusing in classroom is also a major problem from past many decades. We are observing those so-called students we call average learner. Practically being a teacher, I don't believe anybody is an average learner. Everybody is a gifted human being with the equal capabilities in their mind and heart for absorption of knowledge. But still, because of surrounding, what happens if you are distracted? Even in classroom, a teacher is physically standing in front of you and you are grasping knowledge. If you are having a problem of focus, whether it is offline or online, this is a common problem. Many parents feel there is a problem due to screen time. We used to say when students are becoming engineers, becoming software engineers, they used to devote 15 to 18 hours a day in front of a screen. So if you carefully take care of your eyes, proper distance between a screen and your eyes and contrast ratio of the screen, there is no problem of a screen time. It is just a psychology. And in this pandemic time, we have personally felt it is giving such a boon in overall learning that for good students, certainly it is the way by which over a period of time, most of offline academic education is going to be replaced by online learning. Certainly 10 to 15% of hybrid model or physical connect is needed to enhance the basic habits and the co-curricular activities in a school. So this is the major edge I can say.
Yeah, that's of course the edge, but I'm also going to talk a bit about the differences as well, because many of your students have scored, top ranks in IIT, JEE and in NEET, both through the offline model and through the online model now recently. But what are the differences, in of course, learning, but also teaching through these two modes?
Certainly, recently my student Radul stood All India rank 1 in JEE Main. I was talking about out of 18 national toppers, he's also one among those. And when I was interviewing him on a channel, so he clearly spoken about the factors I've already briefed out. I won't repeat, but as far as teaching part is concerned, I'll share my experience. Like I used to conduct my online classes early morning, say at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. And after that, I give time to students that they can practice, they can refer to resources, they can go through the questions, they can practice a lot. And before end of the day, around 9 p.m., I used to conduct doubt classes so that before going to bed, students are able to clarify all the doubts they are facing throughout the day in learning. So there's another major difference, whereas in classroom model, when a student is going to an institution, whether it is a school or a coaching or any kind of private tuition, a student is going there. Finally, after 2 or 3 classes, they have to come back to school and they wait for 1, 2 or 3 days. Sometimes in metro cities, only weekend classes are practically viable because of traffic limitation and other things. So a student has to wait for complete a week to clarify his doubts. And by the time, sometimes curiosity also gets killed off. But in this online model, we are able to clarify our doubts. We can conduct classes at a gap so that one class is conducted and the student is following the physics class, and after that, after 3 hours, another class of chemistry is kept. Then again, a student is following, then clarifying the doubts. So these are the things we feel being a teacher, it is
Okay.
extremely satisfying for
Okay.
us in teaching.
Okay.
And for learners also, certainly it is a big boon, because of which I strongly feel a bottom
Yeah.
line. I strongly feel students who are good learners and serious
Okay.
aspirants, they are getting a strong boost, and even average students are able to reach the top level.
Okay. Ashish ji, we've completely run out of time, but very briefly, I'd like you, to comment on the new education policy as well, how this is going to help online learning, in the future of offline learning, classroom learning currently.
Yeah, I also briefly specify initially also I was replying new education policy, which was released in 2020, is mainly focused on raw learning for fundamental things, whereby repetition and practice and things students are able to learn at a good level. And when we talk about deeper understanding of concepts and application are concerned, this NEP is involving meaningful active learning, because of which we can say students are going to grow a lot. But major problem is the same what I told you, because of our syllabus and curriculum, students are not getting time to focus. That's why they need additional private tuitions or coaching. But the beauty of NEP 2020 is the syllabus is targeted to be reduced by 50%. When the syllabus will reduce by 50%, the students will be having extremely high number of hours and time available for them, so that apart from a school, they don't need to go for private tuitions or coaching. Even schools can engage online educators. Schools can engage that level of experts by which during school hours, students will be guided to lot of deeper understanding things. So the major problem of time, which is there today, because of which the supplementary education, coaching or tuitions is
required,
being mushroomed, will get over. This is the biggest and important beauty of NEP. And in coming time, certainly, as far as coaching tuitions part are concerned, will be absorbed in schools and online model rather than offline education system.
Great, which will of course boost efficiency for students as well.
Certainly.
All right, thank you so much, Ashish Arora, for joining us once again on NewsX, for talking about this very important issue about the fast changing landscape of teaching and learning in India.
Fine, thank you.
Our next guest for the day is investor and business guru Vitul Quatra. With over 25 years of global experience in P&L growth and business transformation, he is investing, nurturing people, concepts, as well as organizations.
With years of experience in growth and business transformation,
I am interested in, which I have nurtured, helped, invested, whatever you might call, and they're doing well. They're doing well. They're attracting people from outside. They're attracting people from within India, and they're mushrooming.
his expertise spans across various industries.
I think last time we were not so much ready on the infrastructure side, vaccination side. That we have covered as a country.
NewsX India A-List proudly recognizes Vitul Quatra for excellence in business entrepreneurship.
Hello and welcome to this special broadcast. My name is Vineet Malhotra, and today we'll have the pleasure of speaking to a very special person, Vitul Quatra. He's into investment, nurturing people. He's into, in fact, coming up with concepts, and he's helped a multitude of organizations for the past 25 years. He's got a global experience in profit and loss growth and business transformation through processes, people, experience, and technology. Right now, he's based out of Dubai. He's traveled and helped out people in across 20 plus countries. Vitul, appreciate you speaking with us. First up, you are in Dubai right now, and obviously that is some place where you find solace in terms of your work. But give a perspective to our viewers as to what your background has been and what are you currently involved in.
Thanks, Vineet, for having me over here. Good to speak to you. I've been, to give you a perspective, I've been a banker. I've been a telecom guy, and I've been providing experience to large organizations, both at an organization level as well as at a customer level over the past 25 plus years. And this is professionally. Personally, yes, I've been born and brought up in. I was born and brought up in Delhi, in India. I still love my country and Delhi. So right now I'm in Dubai, but yes, it's a saying which we usually have. You can take an Indian out of India, but you can't take India out of an Indian. So that's what happens with me. And if possible, I'll see you soon in Delhi.
Yeah, Mitul, you're deeply invested into startup culture as well. Tell us more about that. And you've invested in some startups as well. There are a lot of people who would be looking at this interview and wondering that what is Vitul's criteria when it comes to selecting a startup that one can invest in. This will also be important for people, who are angel investors.
Yeah, on the startup industry as an overall, if I say about India, I think we are moving at a very good pace on when it comes to startups. The quality of startups which have come up, leave aside the big ones which have already happened, Flipkart, Zomatos, and the others, OYOs of the world. Everybody knows the success stories. But now the transition has moved on to being specialists in startups. Those are the startups which are gaining momentum. Those are gaining eyes of the investors and bringing in much more moolah for that particular startup, as well as it's helping the economy grow. So example, it could be a culture tech, it could be edutech, it could be pure technology, commercial vehicles. There are huge startups which have happened in commercial startups. There are startups which have come up in the sattvic foods, the vegan foods. So there are different startups which have mushroomed, specializing in a particular area, which the space has been a vacuum till now, and we've been the first runners. And I hope these startups will do well if they go along the stride and not only from a profit making immediately. Obviously, profit making. They are not an NGO; they are into profit making. So I think that those are the startups which I am interested in, which I have nurtured, helped, invested, whatever you might call, and they're doing well. They're attracting people from outside. They're attracting people from within India, and they're mushrooming. Yes.
We will also talk about the fact that COVID-19. How has it worked when it comes to the startup culture throughout the world? There are a number of companies that have prospered owing to COVID-19 because their business was such that the demand for their product or services during a lockdown, during COVID-19, grew exponentially. But on the other hand, you also have certain companies, Vitul, which went totally kaput because of COVID-19. Where do you find this balance right now? Are things coming back to normal for people to be venturing out and starting their own gig?
Yes, the entire COVID scenario has been obviously pretty bad. This is the first time when a pandemic has hit the entire world. There have been obviously similar kind of incidents which have happened earlier, but those were either regional or country-wise. This is the first time when the entire globe was actually shut down. So imagine restarting the entire globe, obviously will take its own time. It's already started. You would have seen obviously the markets going up, the demand going up, the entire trade coming back, production coming back. That's already started. It'll give it around 2-3 months, a quarter more, and you will be up and running. I hear airlines have started recruiting pilots. The demand has already gone up, which was the hardest hit industry, both the airlines as well as the hospitality. Hospitality from hotels and from other perspectives within that particular hospitality industry, those industries have found their own another segment which was not there earlier, which is the domestic or the staycation or so those are the, like if you are in Delhi, you would never go and stay in a hotel in Delhi. Over the COVID, people have actually started staying in their own city hotels over the weekend, which were safe, which were just out of their mundane house, go out, do some nice breakfast, go into the pool, sit down, relax, come back next day. Those are the areas which have never been explored by hospitality earlier. So these are some of the things which have actually mushroomed or grown during the pandemic. Economy-wise, if you look at Indian economy, it's come up. It's actually we're making now news. Obviously, 2.5 million doses a day across, which adds up to a lot of countries put together, more than those. So we have, even if yes, there has always been a trigger. What will happen if the third wave comes? I think we're pretty much ring-fenced ourselves around that particular third wave when it comes to both vaccination as well as proactive readiness of infrastructure. I think last time we were not so much ready on the infrastructure side, vaccination side, that we have covered as a country, and we are set to roar. As you say, the flight is already was there on the runway. It's already taken off. So now you will see it's just from 10,000 to 30,000 feet, nothing else.
We'll talk about being outside of India and having an outsider's perspective on how the Indian economy has been doing in the last few months. The last quarter, when it came to exports, when it came to real estate, has been marginally better than the first few quarters. What has been your assessment of what's going on with the Indian economy?
I think Indian economy has been the star of the globe. If you look at over the past 6 months, over the past 9 months during the pandemic, I think India is the country which has received the maximum inflows from an investment perspective. That's why the markets have grown, FDIs have gone up, production exports have moved up. I think India has actually gained as a supply chain destination, as an investment destination, as an intelligent, mature destination from a regulator perspective, and from a control and governance. I think these put together has helped India where it is today, including the Make in India initiative, which was launched a few years back, on the vaccination and others. Across the globe, there are only 4 or 5 countries who've produced their own vaccines.
Correct.
And India is number 1. So that is where India is today. From an investment economy perspective, everybody is now saying, can I invest in India? People have, which is retail, as well as obviously the institutional investors have already invested in. So Indian economy is there, is going to stay. The investments are going to stay. People will make money. Consumer demand will go up. The Atmanirbhar, the Make in India initiatives will boom because the demand is there. You'll see the retail industry moving up dramatically because over the COVID, what has happened is the retail industry, which was the unorganized retail I'm talking about, that was hit. So now you'll see a lot of retail moving up. You'll see a lot of education and health, which will move up. I think these are the places where India will see more future development. And obviously the life sciences and in the intelligence stuff, I'm not too into the defense and the intelligence stuff over there. But yes, those are the areas which the Indian economist are looking at, and they're also attracting investments hugely. So India is set to grow as an economy. Investments are supposed to happen; they will happen, and India will shine better.
Right. Now, moving on from professional, we'll also talk about some of your personal ambitions. You travel a lot. You're very fond of traveling. You also put up a lot of pictures of your exploits, if we can call it, on Instagram under the hashtag Baldy's Tales. Tell us about that, and where does that? How does that help you? Basically, does that help you focus professionally as well, getting away?
Yeah, I think I've been asked many times this particular question. Why Baldy's Tales? Baldy's because of obviously you can't do much about the Baldy. So let's shine. Let's take it to the next level. Let's leverage that particular added value which I have, which others don't have. So that's where the Baldy's Tales came in. And yes, I've been passionate about traveling, hiking, those outdoor events. Both personally, it helps me obviously meet with different people, understand different cultures, understand where the humanity comes from, what is happening in different parts of the world, at a personal level, at a human being level, connect with others. it also helps me professionally. With all this, what is happening around, I think a break of a 2-week, 10-day break, going in for a hike, you sweat it out, listen to yourself, what's happening, listen to your mind, recoup, come back refreshed. I think that's what helps me these breaks, and it's been helping, and that's why I think I've been able to travel to more than 40 plus countries, and cities. Number of cities have been some 110, 115. I'm counting those, but yes, these are some of the tales which I've captured in my Insta and my Facebook page. The blog is still there, but I still need to write more. I've not been able to find time to write more, which I will which I'll write. That's my goal. So it helps me both personally as well as professionally.
And our final guests for the day are actors Abhishek Banerjee and Priyanshu Penuli. They're starring in the film Rashmi Rocket, which will be streaming on ZEE5. It's the big Dussehra release of the year.
Best known for their versatile acting,
The kind of people everybody was involved, RSVP, Mango people, Abhishek coming on board, Supriya Pathak ma'am, and so you knew that this is going to be a special film. All in all, yeah. So it was a beautiful concept.
they recently starred in Rashmi Rocket on ZEE5.
We can move ahead with it, at least not bound our own athletes, our own sportsmen.
NewsX India A-List proudly recognizes Abhishek Banerjee and Priyanshu Penuli for excellence in acting.
Hello and welcome. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on this special interview as part of our NewsX A-List series. We're in conversation today with the two lead stars of the film Rashmi Rocket, who of course star alongside Taapsee Pannu in this sports drama film. Abhishek Banerjee and Priyanshu Penuli. Welcome both of you to NewsX. Thank you so much for being with us.
Hi,
Thank you.
Thank you for having us here.
Thank you for having us.
Let me, begin with you, Priyanshu. Now, of course, you're playing Taapsee's love interest in the film. What really attracted you to the story? Was it your co-actors, the director, the actual premise of the story, which is also very different? And I remember a movie which has been made on this subject in the recent past in the industry. What was it about the film, Priyanshu, that made you say yes?
A couple of things which you just kind of brushed upon is the premise is very, very different. It is about gender testing, the story, the way it's written, and not making it a very serious drama, building it on relationship and grounds, building it more emotionally, showing a story of a girl who's very strong-headed but still falls down, and then she rises again and fights for her rights against system. So the basic storyline was very, very exciting, and I definitely thought that this kind of should come out and people should be aware about gender testing. I wasn't aware when I got to know about it. Secondly, as you said, love interest of Taapsee Pannu, I was like, oh wow, why not? We have to actually. I was excited because I've always admired her work as an actor, and been excited to see whenever she comes across on screen the kind of choices she's made. But mainly it was also Akash Khurana, a very, very old friend. I love him, the way he works, his way of looking at things as a director. I don't think I can say no to him ever. But then again, the kind of people everybody was involved, RSVP, Mango people, Abhishek coming on board, Supriya Pathak ma'am. And so you knew that this is going to be a special film. All in all, yeah. So it was a beautiful concept, and me getting to play an army officer. I mean, I was always waiting to play that. So coming from an army background, so all together, yeah, all the boxes are ticked.
Okay, playing a 4G, of course, always special. Maybe now you need to do a more full-fledged war role as well in the future, since you told us about your army background. But Abhishek, even for you, playing a lawyer, very different part, very different genre to something you've done most recently. Was that one of the reasons you decided to take this up? And what appealed to you of this film, Abhishek?
Absolutely. I think I was very happy that someone offered me a white collar role, and of course I was a part of a story which is I think much needed in today's time and age. I mean, we can't really have these kind of laws here which restricts our sportsmen. There's already so much which restricts them. So even the system, if they try to stop, then that's a failed system. So to fight against that, to fight for the rights of a sportsman who is wrong, I think that was a big motivation enough. Yeah, and I think the funny part is that I didn't have any idea about this. I had no idea about this gender test until and unless I read the script. And the first time I read the script, I was confused. I did not know whether it's a fictional cause which they're fighting, or if it's real, or if it's somebody's based on somebody's life. I didn't have any clue. And then I realized that they have fictionalized the entire story, but the irrelevant law is much the reality, and not only with regards to our country, but internationally. So yeah, I mean, it just amused me. It just amused me that we can actually still have laws which are made 100 or 80 years back. And those days it was made for a different reason. Now with technology we can, we can move ahead with it. At least not bound our own athletes, our own sportsmen.
Yeah, true, absolutely. And I'm just going to get to that in a second. But interestingly, what you were saying earlier, it's also a white collar role, something you haven't done in the recent past after exploring the crime ki dunya and Patal Lok, of course, in your other films and projects. But did you enjoy playing a lawyer, giving these speeches to court में आप अपने दलील दे रहे हैं अपने client के लिए?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ, मतलब मुझे लॉयर करने के टाइम पे जो रिसर्च चल रही होती है ना, कि हम हमेशा कोशिश करते हैं कि उसको रियल कैसे बनाए, उसको एक आम आदमी की तरह कैसे बनाए, फिर सडनली समझ में आता है कि यार ये वकील जो होते हैं वो परफॉर्मर्स होते हैं। वो मतलब अपनी पूरी केस स्टडी करते हैं, वो रिहर्स करते हैं, they actually do shadow practice, they do mirror practice, and then they go and perform their case in front of the judge. And also they have very time, so they have to speak very fast. वो बहुत जल्दी तेजी से उनको वो चीजें बोलनी पड़ती है, तभी वो जब सुनते हैं कि डेट अगली है, वो डेट इसलिए होती है कि वो 40 मिनट का विंडो मिला होता है मजिस्ट्रेट के पास या जज के पास, तो 20 मिनट, 15 मिनट, 10 मिनट, 40 मिनट के अंदर उनको अपना पूरा केस प्रेजेंट करना पड़ता है। So to just be in groove, to just be a lawyer who has to rehearse, but to be an actor who can't be seen as rehearsed, to still find a spontaneous movements between those performative of sessions, that was the tricky part. To memorize those many lines was the tricky part. But सच बता रहा हूँ, मुझे बहुत मजा आया, क्योंकि ये जो मोनोलॉग्स बोलने को मिलते हैं, या फिर जब कानून से लड़ते हैं, विटनेस बॉक्स से लोगों को क्रॉस क्वेश्चन करते हैं, I think that this is a lot of fun. I mean, I've always seen great lawyer performances in films and in theater. To be actually playing that, it was very, very special.
True. And Priyanshu, just taking off from, of course, what you also said earlier about the premise of the film, and what Abhishek was saying about what all our sports persons anyways have to go through. Do you believe that this is very unfair? The fact is कि वैसे भी system में इतनी बाधाएं आती हैं. There's so many obstacles and roadblocks that our sports people have to face, and now we are seeing them really flourish, particularly in these last Olympics. Just this year we saw women really shining this time, and perhaps many more women would also be able to, if these kind of laws were not there. We also saw what happened to Duty Chand. Just one example that comes to mind. So do you believe there will be a relook, and we must support our sports people looking at how they're making us proud?
Absolutely. I think what we are trying to also say here is that sometimes, system in some other way, if we can support them from the top level, from the association level, as audience, and not just celebrate them and win. Before that, they need lots of athletes, especially women athletes. And then I was shocked when I read about this gender testing thing, and then it happens internationally. Everybody is kind of revolted against this. Some have won, some are still fighting, some have done crazy things to really, vote against this kind of gender test. I mean, it's humiliating to point at somebody, and this only happens to women, by the way. No men are supposed to go through any kind of gender testing. So that's really, really unfair. How can you really? And I'm sure today we have technology. I know the reason why this was built in 1930s and 1940s, because there were men impersonating themselves as women and kind of taking part in races.
Yeah.
Now we have, we've got infrared cameras too. I'm sure we can have many different kind of technologies to find out, right? So you don't have to really do this old kind of laws and rules and do such tests to really humiliate women athletes. What happens is I think their confidence gets shaken, and then you're doubting them, their performance, and then the talent and everything. And then many talented women can really come forward. And we've seen it now, and as you rightly said, during the Olympics, and also that's what I'm saying. I think what we have been doing is we made Dangal and celebrated women there, but it's only after they win something. I think on the base level, from when they're students and when they're really training for something, if we can give them better facilities, and the association can really help them. So I'm hoping that after this film, there are more discussions, there are more steps taken. And if it can really change something about women athletes in our country.
Let's hope that happens. Let's hope that happens, because do send out a message that's stronger than any other medium very often. But let's staying with sports. आजकल IPL भी चल रहा है, और IPL के हर मैच के एंड में एक पुरस्कार दिया जाता है आजकल. The award is called Game Changer of the Match. Who was the game changer that changed the course of the way the match is going. So I have to ask you, Abhishek, for you, which has been your game-changing project that you believe changed the course of your career? Which one or two projects has been game-changing for you?
I think Stree and Patal Lok, I think both these both these projects have been game changers for me. And Stree being my first film, it gave me a lot of recognition amongst the industry and the common people. But I think Patal Lok just raised that bar. It just made me, whatever popular face, or where crowd would know my character's name, and that was very special. So I think both these films helped me as an actor. They helped me to grow as an actor also. They helped me to show the two different sides which I could, probably perform as an actor. And also it gave me a lot of confidence, because the recognition, the acclaim, the awards, all of this, it's for self gratification. It's just for your self validation, and you just become more confident that probably the path you have chosen, or probably the process you have chosen, there might be some weight to it, and you just need to keep following your heart and keep doing and keep working hard towards it.
Yeah, you're on your right path. Okay, Priyanshu, same question for you. Game-changing project so far for you, or
definitely. I'll give you reference, because you said cricket and game changer. I'll make it into a cricket thing. That I think through Bhavesh Joshi, I was playing in top 11. Otherwise, I was only sitting outside. That opened doors, and top 11 mein aa gaya, team mein aa gaya tha. That happened. Then when I think I would say extraction, people started realizing that he can hit a six as well. He's not a guy who will only take runs. He can do something creative and hit sixes. But Mirzapur kind of put me where they started saying that, let's put him up in the order. And people started loving me for the way I played that part. And I'm hoping that now after Rashmi Rocket, they will also, I'll be considered into the top opening batsman. As a lead batsman after Rashmi Rocket. So every film of yours or every project of yours actually takes you, they build you, and these are steps.
Fantastic. I loved your answer. Okay. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for joining us. And let's hope Rashmi Rocket is again, in a cricketing term, is of course a game changer for you, and you do have a long innings, of course, on the OTT box office. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
And all the very best for this project, this Dussehra, which of course is coming on ZEE5.
Thank you so much.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.